Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Simon, and I want to show you today a quick walkthrough of a potential POC for connecting our observability platform with our new dashboarding functionality to render basically observability data from GitLab observability straight into our new dashboarding. We are looking currently at a POC, where the setup is the following. So we would have the GitLab Observability UI backend, which is connected to Prometheus. We are thinking of building a punch-through proxy on the Rails side, so that this is basically connecting then to the GitLab Observability platform, and it's basically handling all the token stuff and so on. And it's basically just opening up a classic API on the Rails backend of the GitLab application. And that's what I will show you today. So we can take a look here. This is my local running instance of the GitLab Observability platform. I'm running it in a standalone mode. I connected it to the demo Prometheus site so that I'm simply getting constant data in. I have here a PromPQL running against it. This is working, so I'm getting directly the data from the server and basically getting data back. And what I did now is I took our dashboarding functionality, which is under analytics at the moment, and started to see how we can use exactly this, in this instance, a Prometheus data source on the GitLab Observability UI. And what I did for this is I simply went ahead, created a small proxy, which is running here. So this is basically exposing the GitLab Observability API to port 3005 with course header, so that I can connect directly from the front end, simply leaving out at the moment this part of the punch-through proxy, which would be also part of the POC and which would need to be built. And as I said, this is really just a starting point, which was created today in a couple of hours. So we have here in the overview list, we have one built-in dashboard, as we call them. So those are dashboards that we will provide with the platform, which are basically read-only, can't be edited. They are always there, so that we can basically run and release functionality. I took the dashboarding in general and basically implemented here a new dashboard, which contains one visualization, which we see here, which is called test render, and we will get to that in a soon. But what we see here already is that we are going from the GitLab native application. So this is a classic GitLab UI frontend, part of the dashboarding, which has a PromPQL query saved in a visualization, is taking that, sending it to the API, retrieving the data through basically two proxies from Prometheus, from the demo site on the internet, and is basically then taking exactly that data and displaying it here. If we also take a look, we can do the same with querying also against a custom dashboard, where we have basically created simply two, and the user would be then able to basically edit these. So you can move them around, you can resize them here and save that again. And then basically the next time you open up this dashboard, this will be basically exactly in those positions, and you can add more of those observability panels and so on. As you can see, we have here already time series zooming implemented, and this is just because I'm using a fixed timestamp. This is simply using different time range data, but is sending out a full query. How does exactly this query look at the moment? So if we take a look and go to the group, we can take a look at the source file of the custom dashboards so that we can see what query is behind this. Go visualization. So this is our observability YAML file. So we are setting up here a line chart, which is going for observability data source, which is a newly created one, which simply sends out the queries over to the GitLab observability platform, and is then basically saying, okay, I want to access data from Prometheus, which has an ID of 1. And this is the actual query that I'm sending over, retrieving the data, converting it back to our chart format, and then rendering exactly that. So if I would go ahead now and say here, open in Web IDE and edit this file and say, by handler, I think it was, and simply create a commit to main branch, and reload the actual dashboard. Then I created a mistake in my query. We will take a look simply at the general one. I'm not that good at PromQL. So here we go. This is the actual one that is in the built-in. Let's see, we have here the test render JSON. It's some by handler. Okay, there we go. Classic typo. Create a commit again. This is something that at the later point the editor can do. If we go back, we can take a look here, observability custom, and now we have 2 charts rendering the full bandwidth of all the endpoints that are basically stored in Prometheus there. What can we do with this? We can also combine this completely with product analytics data and value stream analytics data, what we are currently extending, and we will do more, so you can have multiple of those data sources on the same dashboard. The other part that we wanted to take a look in the POC is that we can recreate basically a designer for this, and I took a small look at that. There is now an endpoint on the page which is called Observability Designer. So now let's cheat here again and say I want to have the rate here, copy this over, hit enter. Now I need to choose a chart type, hit again, and then I'm basically getting already rendered exactly one-to-one the data that is coming from Prometheus. I can change this and say, okay, I want to have instead a sum, and then I'm basically getting just a sum of all the endpoints. And this is following complete PromQL, is sending it through straight to Prometheus through the 2 proxy steps. We can autocomplete this. I strongly believe that we can do this. There are a couple of PromQL packages, both for the Monaco editor that we are already using. There's also one for CodeNext. The other thing is that Prometheus itself, through Grafana, provides us also with very clear metadata points. So it can give exactly what are the values that you can put into a PromQL, and based on that, we can build full auto-completion as we see this also over here in the Grafana observability UI at the moment. Yeah, this is it for the first step of this POC. It basically shows that we can load quite easily with our dashboard format data from Prometheus through GitLab observability UI. We can render it in a line chart. This has already adapted options, so that, for example, that we have a zoom here and so on. We can save this to a dashboard. We can combine this for later steps. And I think it's a nice starting point. And we will take a look now also at the actual code that is happening here. So the heart of it is one data source. So what we did here is we have a universal format in our dashboard files that we can say, okay, I want to render a visualization panel, and this visualization panel then basically says, okay, what type of data I want to get. And we simply created a new data source, in this case, observability compared to product analytics, what we are doing right now. And here I built a new observability layer where I'm simply going ahead, sending to our proxy, our course proxy, which is then sending it over to GitLab observability UI, exactly to that Grafana endpoint, which is giving us for that type of data source, then basically the results. We convert these results that we are getting from Grafana here back into our native charting format and hand that basically then to the actual rendering that is one-to-one the same rendering that we are also using on the product analytics side, which means that as we add more charting options over there, they will become available also for observability and so on and so on. So at some point, we should be able very soon to have basically a dashboard editor where you can go ahead, add a panel with product analytics data, like how many visitors did I have today, have next to it another panel where we can show how many API calls we had, and another panel where we show the error rate, and another panel where we might show simply how many issues we have done in this milestone coming from value stream analytics. Yeah, happy to answer then questions in the blueprint MR that I'm going to link to this. And yeah, thanks for listening. Take care, everyone.